And after yet again another perplexing round of AFL football, we're back for the start of the week. This is the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. I'm Sergio Paradise, and here he is, Colombian drug mule Titus O'Reilly.
Gee, she's not winning the media battle at the moment.
Well, I called you a Colombian drug mule. I thought it's probably better than former sex worker Titus O'Reilly.
Gee, only because no one was willing to pay. I gave it a shot.
That's what the world needs, is another ugly hooker.
Gee, got off to a flying start.
Yeah, there's a bit of a belt there and everywhere. Anyone we haven't bashed in the opening 30 seconds? Oh, that's been a hell of a weekend.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's content like that's why our supporters...
That's why they get on board.
They get on board and...
for that kind of thing.
You're not going to hear that on Channel 7 commentary team.
No, you're not.
Off air, yes.
Yes, but
not on air.
Not broadcast, perhaps.
So I just want to thank once again our supporters who bring you this podcast.
Blame them.
Maybe not anymore, but they. And if you want to become a supporter, go along to TitusO'Reilly.com. There's a supporter thing there, and you can financially support us. It enables us to keep doing this. And if you can't do it in terms of financial support, always go on to iTunes and rate us. We appreciate
say something
that.
nice. That'd be good.
That gets the word out. Now, it's been a crazy week, not just the weekend.
Yeah, you're right.
The footy is just crazy all the time.
Well, it is every week now.
Yeah, I'm doing so badly in my tipping this year.
We've stopped tipping in our house.
Oh, really? So I have to write a column each week.
Oh, you have to do it, don't you?
But it's proven to me I know an awful lot about footy. I'm doing so badly. Anyone that's doing well knows nothing about football. But on top of just the crazy results, the AFL floated arguably one of the worst ideas I've heard them float yet, which was this idea of having a wild card weekend.
Yes, Nick. Can you? I've listened to some of the gibberish about this, but I still can't get my head around it. Can you explain the wild card weekend? Because when I heard about the wild card weekend, I had my own theory, but I was what it would be, but I'm wrong.
Right.
So if you can explain to me what it really is.
Well, Gillon McLachlan has been pushing for a while some way to make the sort of the last quarter of the season a bit more interesting, because often the top 8 is set.
Yeah.
In the past, it doesn't look like it's going to be quite that way this year. It is so all over the shop, but usually the top 8 set pretty midway, sometimes as early as midway through the season.
Dud games, that's going to happen.
So for 8 teams, apart from a potential chance to lose enough to get a good draft pick, there's not a lot of reason to turn up as members and ratings drop. And so they've been trying for a while, rather than saying, well, that's the nature of a sporting competition.
Well, exactly.
We're going against nature here, trying to.
Bottom.
That's the sort of this isn't kindergarten where everyone gets a medal.
No, it's not.
They've been
May
trying
as well be the way they're going, but
they've been trying to come up with incentives to make teams matches mean things later into the season, even if you're a bottom 8 side.
Yeah.
So one of the ideas they were pushing for ages was this 17-5 fixture, which is after a certain amount of rounds, basically the ladder was split into a top, a middle, and a bottom conference.
Three conferences.
Yeah, with each team based on where you were sitting.
Like the NBA,
and and the bottom one would play off for the number 1 draft pick. I think the second was like for something like maybe a berth or something, and then the top bottom home field advantage. It was all crazy nonsense, right? It's one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. So that apparently got shot down at a meeting of all the clubs this week.
Yeah.
But one idea that therefore got floated, I think, is a bit of an afterthought, because it got shot down the 17-5
and this is the 17-5 or 18-4
got shot down so badly that another idea was to add in a wild card round, which some other leagues have, where the teams that haven't just missed out on finals get a one-off shot at trying to win a game to get in. Now, they do it in baseball, and they do it in some of the other in the NFL.
Some individual sports like tennis, if you don't qualify for the big tournament, they give you a wild card unless you're Maria Sharapova.
Yeah, unless you're Maria Sharapova, because people don't like you.
Yes, and you've been on the gear.
The thing here is, it's even in baseball, it's a money making. The broadcasters want it, and because there's more ratings and they get an extra game,
pump it up. It's the wild card round. Yeah.
The problem I have with it, the idea that's been floated, and they said it got some interest, is what it would be is this. If you finished it, it would be someone who finished, say, they were saying someone who finished seventh might play someone who finished 13th, and 8th might play 9th, and variety like this.
For a spot in the top 8.
In the final. So you could... Now, as funny as Richmond losing to a team that didn't make the finals a few years ago in the finals, this has just got to be one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. I mean, imagine a team from 13th making the finals on a one-off win.
Yeah, which
and then knocking a few others out, or it actually lowers the quality of teams in the finals.
Of course,
potentially.
it does. It compromises the standard, but you've got to think: do you really reckon it's a great idea when Gillen says there was more interest than I thought there would be? Is that the strongest endorsement you've ever heard?
The thing about this is they're so desperate to get more sides in. Now, I've got a couple of theories about why they're so desperate.
Why so?
Well, one, they want money.
Oh, yeah, that's a given.
And so one option there is, why don't they just let whoever's the highest bidder from outside the 8 pay their way into the finals?
Which means it'll be an interstate club because they're the ones with all the dough.
Collingwood, potentially,
Yeah.
So that's one way to just...
It means it keeps North out of the finals.
There's a few sides got no chance. But that's kind of what they want. They want more money. So just at least be totally brazen about it. Don't pretend that it's because of some competition. The other idea I realised the other day, looking at the ladder after last night's results, is if you look at the ladder, do you know who's the highest placed Victorian side on the ladder at the moment?
I don't actually.
Richmond,
the Tigers.
They're the highest on the ladder.
Where are they?
They're 7th.
Okay.
So think about this. The top Victorian side in the league is 7th and plummeting pretty quickly. Flailing, which means basically you have no Victorian sides currently on the starters grid except for, I'm just looking at the ladder because I'm trying to remember who's in 8th at the moment. But you basically got no Victorian sides looking even close. So Western Bulldogs are in 8th.
Okay.
And so you've got Crows 1, then Giants. Sorry, Geelong is. So Melbourne sides, not Victorian sides, is my point there. Then you've got Eagles, Freo, Port, Richmond. So Richmond 7th. So suddenly you've got the AFL with no Melbourne sides looking like maybe making the finals.
Maybe this wild card thing's got...
They suddenly go, wild card.
Might be an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, let's get a wild card getting in.
Yeah, We'll get Collingwood in there. We might get Essendon in there. Or
just
Carlton.
Have a spot for. Just say, 3 Victorian sides get a guaranteed entry.
Yeah,
if you're going to do that.
But you had this other theory. I think you floated on Twitter the other day that what they could do is have 23 rounds and the top 8 teams play off in the finals.
It's amazing if they could do that.
That'll never work.
This is the thing. The top 8 has built into it effectively a wild card rounds, right? And what it is almost always the top 4 are really in the finals, and the bottom 4 are the wild card entries.
Exactly.
And every now and then a wild card entry,
like the Bulldogs last year,
or the Crows earlier on in the few years ago, quite a few years ago now. But you do occasionally get the wild card come through. So, but basically, like a top 4 would actually is really what it is anyway. And changing that in any way isn't going to.
No, they're not going to change it back to a top 4 like in.
No, so you've already got a wild card though. That's what.
Less finals, less money.
Yeah. I mean, you get into a ridiculous thing which some sports leagues have, which is like half the teams make the finals. So you're going to have teams that are finishing, equal wins and losses almost, and get into the finals. I mean, what's the point of that? And we're Melbourne supporters. Of all the people who would support something like this, it would be people like us, and even we think it's stupid.
And we think it's really. I mean, they're going to pinch ideas from. Why don't they have a best of 7 grand finals like they do in the NBA? That'd test out the finish. See, when I first heard wild card round, I thought it was going to be something like the Indigenous round or the country game or and I thought, great, that'll mean it.
Like Melbourne, a themed round,
themed round, I thought, which meant Melbourne would get back Alan Jakovic.
Like just a random player can come play for
a wild card type, but a player who was a wild card. Like Lions could get Doc Wheeldon, David Rees-Jones back at Carlton. Players who were wild cards.
And then play one game.
Just play the one game.
And they can belt everyone.
Yeah, it'd be, to get people through the gates.
Oh, to see Alan Jakovic again.
Oh, I would pay to see Alan Jakovic.
No one knows where he is.
No, we've been hunting him down through our other podcast, the other podcast I do, the Melbourne
the one you're cheating on me
the
with.
one I'm sort of two-timing you with. We've been trying to track him down.
Have you found him?
No, we haven't found him.
Where's the latest you've been able to track him down
Well,
to?
his brother, Glenn Jakovic, said the last he heard he was working on a boat off Croatia somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like a fishing boat or a party boat?
Oh, probably both. Jacko's there. They fish during the day and party all night. But then another one of his former Melbourne teammates said he thought he was working in the cane fields off Newcastle or somewhere. So, I don't know. Alan Jakovic, he's got wild card written all over
that's
him.
right. So anyway, it's a crazy idea. Ashley Warner wrote in, since next week Richmond 7th play Essendon 10th and the Western Bulldogs play St Kilda, which is 8th versus 9th, can we just call round 10 wildcard round rather than actually having one?
I think he's hit the nail right on the head.
Well, they're all Melbourne sides right there.
You've thought it through already, Ash. It's only taken him 3 or 4 days to implement Gillen's theory.
I hope they don't do it.
Ashley Warner, he could get a job at the AFL with thinking like that.
The other thing that was interesting is online, the AFL.com.au ran a poll.
Right.
Do you like this idea? And I think it was running like 52% against, 48% for. But then you looked in the comments, and there were heaps of comments, and they were all negative.
All negative.
And it must have been the most rigged poll. They must have had everyone in AFL House just letting them re-vote as often as possible, because I've not met one fan, or on Twitter or in talking to people, who is for this. I don't know anyone that is for this as an idea.
I haven't heard one person say anything positive about it, or even discuss it in any great detail.
Except to say it's the worst idea they've ever heard.
They just roll their eyes and say it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So
now, we had the first female field umpire.
Yeah, we've had goal umpires.
But at AFL level on the weekend. It's
been quite common in junior, in the VAFA over the last few years. And I think there's been a few in the VFL, but this is to hit the big time.
This was Eleni Gluftis, who I don't know if she'll make it, because she didn't make anywhere near enough mistakes to be a consistent AFL player. She needed to play. She needed to do. She seemed okay, which is not what you want.
No,
she didn't do any just crazy decisions or.
No, in comparison to the Melbourne North game, So I don't know his name, but that bald-headed Harry Highpants who gets around.
This is I was at the game yesterday, as were you. The umpiring was, I thought, terrible. Now, let me be very clear. Melbourne lost that with no help. They didn't need the help of the umpire. No. I think Melbourne would have lost no matter what. So this isn't like a sour grapes.
Although we were crucified by
I did think Melbourne got the bad end of a lot of it, but they also did quite a lot of stupid things themselves.
They asked for it.
But the quality of the umpiring this year, and this isn't like... and I've even noticed that when we've got the rub of the umpiring this year, it's the quality of umpiring across the board. And some weeks it's on your favour and some weeks it's not. And sometimes it's just inconsistent right across to both ends. Has been terrible. And I'm not a huge umpire basher all the time. I only think of it, because I think they're like, I've said this before, they're like call centre operators, right? They're just implementing terrible policies.
Yeah.
But I think they have been given so much to think about this year, so many controversial things that...
Dropping the ball rules out the window.
Dropping the ball, terrible. The amount of times there were blatant throws and they're not called. Other times when there's like Bob Murphy being run down and kicking the ball, but they called it incorrect disposal when they never call incorrect disposal. Like there was just 1,000 things wrong, and I don't know what it is, because I don't believe overnight the umpires all just became hopeless.
No, I don't know.
I think it's what they're being expected to do and the lack of clarity.
I've never heard more often this year, when you're sitting in the stand with other supporters who you don't know, you always get the abuse at the umpire when you get a decision against you that was a bad call. Yeah. But I've never heard so many times supporters go, well, that was a shocking decision, but we'll take it, in your own favour.
I was talking at the game I had in front of me, a guy who's a North supporter, right? and he and I were chatting briefly, and there was this bit where even I said to him, we got a free. And no, they tackled and it didn't get paid, and North should have got a free, and we didn't got a goal. And he said, "Oh, that was nonsense." And I said, "I agree with you. It was like a blatant holding the ball, and it went, so it was even against us." But I just think it can't be just the umpires because they're the same umpires.
They're pretty much the same as they've had the last few years.
So anyway,
we're not going to bash them, but congratulations
we're
to
not
Eleni.
going to,
but we're not going to bash the umpires.
But I'm bashing them in that I think they've been handed They're like someone handed the terrible policy, and they have to be the ones that they're the Sean Spicer of the thing. They're trying to defend the indefensible. So anyway, but it was. I mean, one thing I thought is about having a female umpire is I thought, well, this is great. It's only taken us to 2017. We're so progressive in the AFL. But secondly, I was amazed that we managed to get through the weekend without any of the footy media saying something particularly sexist. I was half expecting someone to say either A, she's a good-looking girl or something. I was expecting something about her appearance, and I was expecting someone somewhere, whether it was Graham Corns or someone, to say something about how this is political correctness gone mad. And she's going to get hurt. I was also waiting for someone to say, oh, well, if one of the players accidentally cleans her up, that sort of thing. I was just waiting, and they didn't do it. There's still time, though.
I got a message on Twitter yesterday from someone, and I don't want to suggest that this party is guilty, but he did suggest that it only took 15 minutes into the first quarter for Wayne Carey to go down that path.
Oh, did he? I didn't hear this. I might have spoken too early.
Dumb or sexist. Now, as I say, I don't know. I didn't hear it, so I don't know whether he did or not. So
it doesn't sound like Wayne.
I don't want to hang the duck. I mean, he's never done anything against women in his life, except glass one and assault one in King Street. Other than that,
there's two sides to every story.
And King hit a cop. But other than that, I don't want to hang him out to dry. But somebody did suggest that it only took him 15 minutes into the first quarter to say something a bit dumb about Eleni.
Yeah, well, there you go. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Anyway, well done. We've finally been dragged kicking and screaming into the 20th century in the AFL. We touched on it briefly, but Melbourne lost again. Now, they've lost to North 16 games in a row. 2006 was the last time Melbourne beat North Melbourne. Now, North Melbourne obviously been the best side in the comp over that decade, those 10 plus years. They've won a premiership, I think, every year, and so it's not that surprising. On top of that, you think about it, the last time Melbourne beat North Melbourne, John Howard was Prime Minister. We've had 30 Prime Ministers since then?
At least I've lost track.
It's quite amazing how we're...
And there could be another one by the end of this podcast.
So it is just damning how they keep losing to North. I mean,
they had their chances yesterday, but again... we're not going to sit here and analyse how the game was played, but that old cliche, you cannot win a game with 1.5 decent quarters of football.
Yeah.
And they tried every time. Even my 12-year-old said at three-quarter time, he said, here we go again. We're going to have to come from behind and try and pinch one instead of being 6 goals in front. And, of course, they fought back and they got within 2 points and then bang, 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 game over.
But do you think...
They do it all the time.
My view of this season is, can you think of a side that is managed to yet consistently pull together 4 quarters of football? That's why we're seeing...
That's true.
I'm not saying that to let Melbourne off the hook, right? Because they're particularly bad. But the thing that is weird about this season is teams are losing from almost... any position, being 31 points up. Hawthorn were about 30.
43 points in front at one point.
So you have all these sides that are just, Richmond have lost from that position, But then all these sides, you think, it used to be a 30-point lead. You go, well, we're pretty right here.
Should be pretty right,
especially if it was one of the better sides. But it means nothing anymore. They're just no one.
It's like a lot of clubs play. Most games, it's 2 good quarters each.
Yeah.
And if you outscore somebody in your 2 good quarters, you win the game.
Yeah. That's exactly what it's like. It's crazy. No one can do it. Dylan Walton wrote in, you have a house. Do you bet it on West Coast in Melbourne, Richmond with 1 minute to go, or do you just burn it down and save yourself the angst? I tell you what, West Coast were terrible.
Oh, I didn't see any of it. But
I
must have been shocking.
I was watching that in the bar at the footy before Melbourne started, and they were just...
How bad are they out of Perth? And poor old Adam Simpson. Yeah, I did see him walk into his press conference, and I thought the first journo to ask him about how you blokes go in Melbourne is going to be a very brave man. But it's just a fact of the facts.
It's just a fact.
Yeah.
Like
they are hopeless.
There's long been people have said, you know, the Eagles shouldn't even bother coming over for games in Melbourne, and it was nice to see they'd taken that advice. Yeah. They just didn't play at all.
No.
I'll tell you how West Coast look if you didn't see the game. They had the intensity of people waiting for a bus.
Yeah.
They just stood around milling about like...
Looking at their phones.
Essendon were just all over them. Benjamin J. Brady wrote in, why do I barrack for Melbourne? This is not a rhetorical question. I seriously need the answer.
Oh, look, Ben, for something as deep-seated and psychologically, you know, difficult as that, you need to go to higher authorities than us.
Probably because that was the only way you could get into a private school.
Well, I do notice Benjamin Brady does have a J in the middle.
The thing is, you barrack for Melbourne or you barrack for Richmond or you barrack for any of these clubs that destroy you on a regular basis because you aren't allowed to change.
Well,
and neither should you.
No,
but that's
you shouldn't be allowed to. I mean,
if it was anything else in life, you would leave.
Yeah.
So
but
that's why it is.
Changing footy teams, not allowed.
Tail ends logger.
Or tail end slogger.
Oh, there you are.
There you go. That's a cricketing reference.
I was reading it all at once. I haven't won the T-shirt after 16 shots, so I don't try. Do you feel the Melbourne players going with the same mentality when playing North?
Well, tail end slogger, you ain't going to win the T-shirt this week because you're going to have to go at it 17 times like
17
Melbourne.
times the charm. Blake Reynolds wrote, what will happen first? Melbourne beat the Roos or the ARU decide the fate of the Super Rugby franchises? I have a feeling it will still be a while anyway. Well, I've heard that basically the ARU almost might not actually have the power. I was talking to someone about this who's been involved in some of these negotiations.
God,
might not even have the power to actually shut one of them.
Well, they just, I think the other day, they said they want to buy the Melbourne Rebels.
Well, I think that's
sort of shut them down. And the Rebels go, oh, sorry, boys, we ain't for sale.
Well, I think part of the Rebels would like to walk away, but there's a lot of, you know, the whole premise of building Amy Park, which hosts the Victory and the Storm, was that there'd also be a rugby union side. So suddenly losing them is a fair hole. So it's a scorched earth policy if they did that, the ARU. They'd lose Victoria support.
Completely forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
You know, be gone. Well, maybe not forever, but, you know, for a long, long time. Maybe forever. Andrew Bailey wrote in, should I move all of my super into a fund that bets against Melbourne whenever they are the short-priced favourite?
Doesn't Andrew sound like a Melbourne supporter?
But doesn't Andrew sound like a financial wizard?
Oh, he does.
Because I think he probably would be right. I'd hate to see the maths on that.
I'm right with you here, Andrew, because I suggest he is a Melbourne supporter because he's never going to allow principle to get in the way of making a buck.
Oh, but he's just right. I mean, I've tipped against Melbourne more often than not because, you know, what else can you do?
Yeah.
I'm hoping they prove me wrong regularly, but they don't do it.
They don't. They prove you correct.
Richmond again on the weekend, and that's the only thing that made me as a Melbourne supporter feel like, you know, my life's not the worst going around.
Did you watch the end of this game?
Yeah,
I didn't watch the whole game.
No, I watched all of.
I watched the last quarter, and
I watched all of this.
It's rare that I find myself laughing out loud watching footy, but at the end, I thought, and especially when the ball was called touched, I said, "Oh, this has just got Richmond." And then I just started laughing, and then they lost the game, and it was even funny.
But the thing was, I was thinking. At some point, I looked at the score halfway through, and this is what shows I'm not a Richmond supporter, right? I saw they were up by about 31 points at one stage, and I thought, well, they can't.
They shouldn't lose from
after last week. You know, I was actually feeling happy for the Richmond supporters that they finally after last week,
they're not going to blow it again.
You know, a win over the Giants, you know, that's up there is like it's a good sign and good on them for bouncing back from that, you know, and then it started to turn. And I'm just like, they were 25 points up in the at three-quarter time. So I thought, even they can't lose from here. I mean, yes, they can. And this is the difference. A Richmond supporter would have gone, yes, they can. Not only can they will.
We probably will.
Well, no, they wouldn't probably. Richmond supporters, I reckon, knew. They were like, we're going to lose this. This is going to be horrendous. And then it just started happening. And the Giants scored 35 points, I think, to 5 in the last quarter.
And early in that quarter, the Tigers had a chance to put them away. They had a couple of shots right in front. And then, as I say, that one that was called touched, like with a minute to go, was just the heartbreaker. That's when you just knew the Giants were going to kick another goal. And Jeremy Cameron, of course, he did.
I read a few things about this where they were saying, a few people wrote articles saying, well, this isn't Damien Hardwick's fault. And I'm like, why are we just...
You can't just... Why are we toss it at the players every week?
This isn't a one-off. I love how when, like Buckley this week, when they won, they all said, they did it for Buckley. Yeah. And you go, well, what about the 6 losses compared to
they did that for Buckley too.
Are they doing that for Buckley too? Like, you can't, it's a bit like, people with religion, how, God is wonderful over here. And you go, hang on, what about this famine we've got over here? Like, you either give them all the credit or none of it. You know, you got to kind of pick a little bit.
You can't, just
divorce, cherry pick. Like the wins are because they are playing for Buckley and the losses are just, bad luck. Oh. So that's the thing, Sarah wrote in, any chance we can just gloss over the Tigers' performance in this week's podcast?
Sarah. No. We have glossed over it a bit. But,
what can you say?
Yeah, there's not much we can add to that hasn't already been said.
Well, we got a lot of questions about it, Sarah, it's not our fault. It's just what the public want. William Olsen wrote in, are there any other ways to snatch defeat from victory that Richmond haven't done yet? They are on their way to
There's got to be another way, surely. Maybe, I don't know, 19 players on the ground. We'll stop for a count at the 28-minute mark.
That's right.
And then they go back to 0. God, I'd love to see that happen.
So it really, it is amazing how much, it's like everyone always makes Richmond 9th jokes and now they make these sort of jokes about them, but they keep doing it and you keep just waiting for it
They are consistent, I'll give them that.
Peter Keneally wrote in, can I be the winning question? Then someone comes in at the last minute and steals the shirt from me. #Richmondy.
Richmondy is a new word.
Well, Will Anderson told us about it, and he'd been doing it on his podcast for a while.
He came up with it.
And it's now gone into the lexicon, basically.
Saturday night, there were a lot of people calling it to be included in the Oxford Dictionary. Richmondy.
Brett Hunter wrote in, after the Lions being 2 wins and percentage behind 17th after 9 rounds, is Justin Leppich the happiest man in the country? No, wait, he's back at Richmond. I retract that question. Carry on.
Isn't he having a good run? Leppo.
Leppo, yeah. No, someone's going to put 2 and 2 together at some point. Jeremy wrote in, if you multiplied the frustration of being a Melbourne supporter with the frustration of being a Richmond supporter, what word should we come up with to describe it, since infinite frustration is too small? I think that's just what hell is.
Yeah, infinite frustration. Yeah,
I think that's the 6th circle of hell.
Sitting there surrounded by flames and
being made to barrack for Richmond and Melbourne. God, it has been brutal. Stej wrote in, my wife is a Richmond supporter and is slowly descending into further insanity. Any advice? I've already bubble wrapped the corners of the table, bench, etc.
Oh, Stej, you're in a bit of trouble here, son.
No, he is. It's
the next step, Stej, obviously is sharp objects, knives.
That's right.
Kitchen utensils.
I imagine they don't have them.
No, probably not. They'd have gone out the window. Microwave, get rid of all of that.
That's right. Damien Wagland wrote in, should Richmond change their team song to Hurt by Johnny Cash?
I hurt myself today. All my friends go away in the end.
I'm a bit worried that Johnny Cash's Hurt's a bit feel good for Richmond. It's a bit too up.
It's almost a dance floor filler compared to I tell you what would make. Imagine if you remade that Hurt film clip with Damien Hardwick playing Johnny Cash.
Someone's got to put Richmond highlights of close losses and terrible performance to that song.
There you go.
If someone does that and sends it, I will tweet tweet the bejesus
We have
out
just
of it.
given you an idea of
That
Fox
would
Footy.
be terrific.
On top of my idea of 6 weeks ago of AFL Goggle Box, which everyone's getting on board with.
Yeah,
now.
I've seen a few people do that since. It's the you're an ideas man. I'll give you that. Malcolm,
By Johnny Cash. I got to tell you, I don't want to go too early, but Damien's clubhouse leader for the T-shirt.
Malcolm Kinga wrote in, are we living in a parallel universe given that Richmond are the highest placed Melbourne-based club?
Well, you were getting at this
earlier.
If you don't count Geelong,
Well,
they
Geelong,
are.
but in terms of Melbourne-based, they are the highest. Geelong have a new stand, by the way.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Now, one thing that struck me is the banners used to be pointless.
Yes.
They were like just you barely read them, right? Like they might as well have been ads, which the back of them are, but you didn't care that much. And then Danny McGinlay, a friend of the podcast,
he revolutionised the banners.
He came and he actually did very clever, funny banners, and still does. So and that worked really well for them. And then we've had a lot of people try and come out therefore and go.
They're all trying to do it now.
You know what we'll do? We'll be funny too, or clever.
Yeah.
And the problem is, none of them are.
No.
Like, Danny's got it down.
Danny he just writes for the Bulldogs. He ain't just banner guy for hire.
Yeah.
He's strictly a Bulldog man.
I'd have a few people contact me and say,
why don't you should
do
write the
for
banners.
Melbourne what Danny does for the Bulldogs. Now, I should add, the one group of people who have never asked that is the Melbourne Football Club. And I don't blame them. And I've said to a few people, though, who've just mentioned in passing, why don't you do that too? You do tweets, it would fit well on banner. And I'm like, because it's been done.
Exactly. That's the whole thing.
Danny's done it first. He's done it well.
Carlton tried to do it a few weeks ago.
And that was
hopeless.
And so anyway, it brings you to North Melbourne, who took a different approach.
Yeah.
And they said, well, let's get current, our former champion, but current AFL Games record holder, Brent Harvey, our own Boomer Harvey.
Oh, Boomer.
Who we sacked.
Yeah.
Let's get him to write the banner.
Gee, we shouldn't have just read get.
He should have wrote,
You can all go and get.
Yeah, that's what he should have handed in. Anyway, they said to Boomer, why don't you write a banner because, it's going to be amazing. Now,
Yeah, it'll be funny.
Boomer came up with this on the North Melbourne banner.
I'm glad you're going to tell me this because I'd heard that he'd written it, but I didn't. The angle I was sitting yesterday, I couldn't see what was written on it.
Because you sit right down near the players' race.
Near the Melbourne players' race. So
I didn't even
where
look
the
at
Melbourne one is.
I didn't even look at the North banner, not because of I don't know. I was probably boozing.
So what did Boomer write on the banner?
He wrote, "Here we are at the mighty MCG. Let's go out and kick snags like Harvey."
What, Harvey Norman? Or?
No, I think like Boomer Harvey.
Right.
How Boomer Harvey is it to write a banner and make it about himself? I mean, when North fans for years have tried to defend him as not being a selfish, and he's not. They're like the Japanese soldiers still fighting the war, and they're not going to get here, not knowing that the war's is over. That back home they've given up. They're trying to battle Harvey and help Harvey out there, going, he's not actually a selfish player, and meanwhile he does this to them. How unfair is that?
What? They're going to get next week. They're going to get Michael Frito. See what he can rhyme with his own name. And then Nicky Del Santo.
Yeah, we'll get Cunningham. Anyway, it's pretty funny that that's the whole banner he came up with. I mean, to think that when he handed that, you know what? The one thing I will say about that banner is it's so bad. I really believe he wrote it.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean?
I don't think it was ghost written for him. No,
I think he did hand that in. But you think about it, there was, like all things that are terrible in this life, when you look at it, there's several steps where some adult should have stepped in.
Yes, correct.
So when someone in a meeting said, we should get Boomer Harvey to write our banner, well, that was step one where someone should have said...
No, we won't do that. Yeah, we won't go down that path. Thanks very much.
Then there's step two, there's, sort of like...
Well, we got him to do it, and
this
see
is
what
it is.
At that point.
And they go, this is great, let's give it to the cheer squad. Then the cheer squad going, let's make this.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few steps they could have stopped it. So.
And I do love the fact that he's put a hyphen in between ha and v.
just to make it rhyme.
Yeah, make it rhyme even more.
So anyway, I mean, it must have worked.
I wonder if
They beat
he'll
Melbourne, so there you go.
get the gig this week.
Well, they won. Maybe he should. I wonder if how many Boomer Harvey related banners Boomer Harvey can come up with. I imagine a lot.
Oh, he did keep
Can he work raffle into one of them? I mean, this bloke, you think about it, all his one thing that everyone always said is he's selfish. He wins a club raffle and keeps the car.
It was the car.
Keeps the car. And then secondly, he then makes, when asked to do a banner, he makes it about himself.
Well, see, even with a 19-year-old rookie, you can understand going, listen, I need a car.
Yeah,
I'm on 400-game veteran who probably owns 3 cars and 7 houses probably should have donated it back to the club.
But in fairness, it's not like North need the money. One thing you saw in
I was rapt about this.
The Olympic Games in Rio last year, or as I like to call them, the Kitty Chiller Olympics.
The Kitty Games.
The Kitty Games. It's been revealed that more than 100 medals from them have been returned because they have rusted or developed black spots on them.
So that was obviously pure gold, wasn't it? that black spot.
It says here at least 130 medals, mostly bronze, because who cares, are being fixed by the Brazilian Mint, who made them for last year's event. That's who they've been returned to get fixed. The most common issues is they were dropped or mishandled and the varnish has come off and they've rusted or gone black, said a spokesperson. The second thing is that a small few, about 10, had problem with the extreme cold.
Right.
What are people doing with their medals? Putting in the freezer with the vodka?
Yeah, keep them in the freezer. Just, I guess burglars never look in the freezer for valuables.
Is that where you keep all your cash?
Oh, yeah, I keep all my cash, all my trophies, all my Olympic medals.
Freezer.
Yeah. My baggy green I'm going to get when I cross the picket line.
So the pool turned brown and green. The medals are rusting.
Maybe they dip the medals in the diving pool before they handed them out.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, the Rio Olympics. They probably couldn't afford all the metal to make the medals.
Well, that's what I'm saying. A proper gold medal, I'm suggesting, shouldn't get black spot.
Did you think that someone tried to hand it back and said it's rusting? And they go, that's not rust, that's the chocolate showing. Oh, it's terrific stuff. Now, we got this week a heap of
absolute plethora
of listeners' questions, which I thought we'd run through because...
just before we do, there's something
you got a question without notice.
Yeah, a topic without notice. Something I spotted this morning. The NRL, always one of our favourite organisations.
Oh, yes, you did show me this.
I think because
I've got it right here.
all the cocaine scandals that have been going on lately with players and officials and what have you, all getting done. They're talking about introducing what they're calling a good boy code.
Oh, a good behaviour fund.
Yes.
Is the official name.
Oh, I thought it was good boy code. But so they're going to put up all this cash, and if you don't get caught with a bag of crank outside a Double Bay nightclub, you get a bit of extra cash in your pocket. Is that how it works?
This is what they're going to do. They're going to give every club, they're planning, a $400,000 good behaviour fund as part of the next salary cap deal as an incentive to stop players from being involved in scandals. Under the plan, an integrity incentive payment, so it's got a few names, will be included in the salary cap, but the pool will be reduced every time a player is involved in an off-field incident.
Oh, so...
It means that every player in the team, even those with unblemished records, will suffer financially if one of their teammates is involved.
That's the old primary school thing.
In an unsavoury incident.
We're not leaving this classroom until the person who did it stands up.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what they're planning to do.
Oh, good luck with that.
That increasingly, just over and over again, they just continually... And this is another example where it seems like they're being tough. It's increasingly treating players like their children, and then they are surprised that in doing that, the players keep acting like children. But that's what they keep doing. Can you imagine this? Imagine this in any other workplace.
Yeah. Look, there's a fund we've put aside. Now, every time one of you idiots does something wrong outside these four walls, we have to give some of that fund back to the body or the corporate entity that owns us.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that working well?
But see, it used to be that players were just expected to be good at playing footy.
Yeah.
Now that...
Or if they get caught, they get done, they cop a penalty or a financial penalty. I can't see this working. And I don't reckon the clubs are going to want this either.
No, because...
They don't want to have a bar it.
Because, you know what? The sides that aren't very good will be the ones that don't have any problems.
all the good sides.
They all have
all the high-paid players. They're the ones out on the cocaine every Friday.
That's right. I just think... So basically what it is you get money if your players are clever enough to not get caught.
Yes, exactly.
Just avoid double bay nightclubs.
It just gives the players better incentive to, as you say, not get caught.
Yeah, well, what I don't understand... and
do it in the car park like in our day.
Why don't they just do it at home?
Now, there's a thought.
And then go into the nightclub. Or does it not last long enough? Is my ignorance here?
They do that for their Mad Mondays now, most of the NRL clubs, because the players cannot be trusted to go to like a pub or something.
They have it at home.
They have it at somebody's house.
Yeah.
But then what happened a couple of years ago, they had it. I can't remember who the player was, but he owned a very nice penthouse in Bondi.
Yeah.
And of course, the paparazzi just rented a room at the place across the way, and there with the long lens, just got all these great photos of players snorting cocaine at home. So I don't know. They're going to have to do something.
I know I'm meant to care, but I don't really care that much about players having cocaine.
No.
Like, I'm not saying saying
it's not
everyone go out and take cocaine or anything, but it's just not high on my list of things I really worry about.
You've got your own stash.
I got my own alcoholic issues. Brendan John wrote in, this is a serious issue.
Yeah, it is.
The gold cards in my son's footy card packs, so these are the gold special ones, were Nick Vlaston and Jarman Impey. Why do the card people hate my son so much?
I've got to say, you would expect your gold cards to be players of a little higher calibre than those two, wouldn't you?
You feel jibbed. I think you can sue the card people right there.
I remember when I was a kid with the Scanlon's footy cards, we used to collect them every year.
Yeah.
And I remember the one you always wanted was Alex Jezelenko.
Yeah.
But you'd always get Alex Russ Kuklik, who played for Fitzroy, who was nowhere near as good as Jezza.
I got given a pack of cards this year in some giveaway thing I was at, and in there they had one pack of cards. I opened it up, and it was just the worst players you could imagine, except the one player I did have was Joel Selwood.
Right.
And it was an incredibly lifelike thing because the top of the card had chopped off his head.
I was waiting for that. I thought there's going to be a ducking joke in here somewhere.
We haven't done a ducking joke in years on Selwood. Sports fan wrote in. I like that as a name. Trademark that.
Yeah.
Instead of buy round, should the AFL just schedule every side to play the Eagles in Melbourne once a year?
Well, that's not a bad idea.
Well, the Eagles...
They kind of do, though, don't they?
Well, and it's also that the Eagles kind of have a bye every time they come to Melbourne. Yeah. So I like their flexibility, the Eagles. They can lose on both the MCG and Etihad.
Yeah, they've got both of them covered now.
Andrew Moran wrote in, now that most codes have proven that you can't put a professional sports team on the Gold Coast, isn't it time for the ARU to have a crack? You can't win on the Gold Coast. We've spoken about this many times. It is the Bermuda Triangle of
for
Aussie
sports. Yeah. I mean, in that regard, the ARU will probably considering it.
That's right.
There's a big market on the Gold Coast.
Actually, that's how they could get rid of the Rebels of the Force, just move them to the Gold Coast.
The players won't want to go. The officials won't want to go.
The
crowd certainly won't want them there.
Who's been successful there? No one.
Oh, no one yet.
No one really.
No.
It's like even Clive Palmer couldn't make it work. You know, if he can't make something work.
And the Clive Palmer, what he's done to the Coolum golf course is one of they talk about the Barrier Reef being vandalised. The Coolum Country Club used to be one of the great spots in Queensland to play golf. You could stay there. It was just fabulous. And now it's fitting. It looks like a third world prison, you know. And that's the Sunshine Coast.
The Gold Coast, I've always said, it's like trying to invade Russia in the winter.
Yeah.
People keep trying it, even though it's proven to be an abject disaster.
It's pointless.
They should. I'm of the strongest. The Suns to me are pointless as a club.
Yeah.
Like they just stand. They're just a nothing club.
Yeah.
Like go back to. And Brisbane are struggling. Either merge them with Brisbane, go back to having one Queensland side.
Yeah.
The state's not big enough for both of them.
No.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And then surprise us all by putting a team somewhere for once, which is, I know it's against tradition, but somewhere where people want a team in
Really?
Tasmania.
Really? I know there's hundreds of thousands of people in Tassie screaming for a team, but it'll never happen.
The argument against the Tasmanian side has always been, apart from the fights between the north and the south of the island themselves that haven't always been able to get on the same page themselves, but has always been the argument is financially it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Well, how does GWS and Gold Coast make sense then?
None of them make sense financially when you boil it down. But as you say, that's always been the AFL's excuse.
Yeah.
You know, it can't be supported financially, blah, blah, blah. There isn't stadiums big enough, which there is because they play there every second week.
They're not going to be the largest team ever and all that. But, seriously.
The
it's
Tassie
that time.
Devils, you can see it now.
There's been a fair few Tasmanian NBL sides over the years.
Has there?
Yeah, the Gold Coast too. The NBL is a whole nother thing. They moved teams around. But the AFL won't ever move Gold Coast or Giants. They're locked in now forever. Cambosis wrote in, I'll be listening to the podcast from Madrid. Is this also a place that Serge doesn't care for?
I've never been to Madrid.
But that doesn't stop you disliking somewhere before.
That is true.
You've been to Adelaide once, 20 years ago?
Yeah, I've written that joint off. But no, Madrid, look, the thing I like about Madrid is it's one of the last bastions of your open-air bullfighting.
And you're big on that.
I'll tell you, there is nothing I enjoy more than seeing a magnificent grown animal teased half to death and then stabbed between the eyes with a sword. That, to me, sums up the true meaning of sport.
Well, you are a Melbourne supporter.
I just put myself in the bull's position.
Yeah, that's right. This sums up how I feel every weekend.
So Cambos, I've never been to Madrid, but... I wouldn't mind hitting Spain. I've heard some good things about Spain.
I'm sure you'll find something not to like about it. Ian Wood wrote in, how have the people of Shanghai coped with no live footy this weekend? Do we need to send trained counsellors?
Oh, that's a good question. No live footy this weekend.
Tough for them after they had such a great game the week before.
After the experience.
Is that little castle still there?
The experience of a lifetime. That's... Look, Ian, I don't know how to answer that. It's how are they coping? Maybe they're
devastated.
Maybe they've just gone back to their normal lives. I don't know.
I think they're absolutely devastated.
Back to the factories. Back to the sweatshops.
None of them.
They're all just gone back. They're making iPhones for $2 an hour.
All the kids are back making iPhones for us. The fact that none of them saw it or went.
Yeah.
Probably means that they're not missing it at all.
They're probably not suffering as much as Ian thinks.
Cameron Reynolds said, is this the year of the Bradbury? Any team that starts to put together a few good performances just trips over and lets everyone pass them. Well, it's true. I think if you look at it, Freo have won 6 of their last 7.
Haven't they come from nowhere? They're in bloody top 5 now.
Well, you know what they're doing? When we mentioned before that no sides aren't playing 4 good quarters, they actually are the closest to it. Now, none of them are they're not like Crows at certain points or Geelong or, who have blown sides away and everyone gets overly excited about them. They've just been pretty consistent all the time, and that's all you need to be this year. If you play 4 solid quarters,
you'll win more than you lose.
Way more than you lose. Yeah. Now, that's always been the case to a point, but this year it seems... Because in that one... Because you'll get 1 or 2 quarters where your opponent will just not come out of the huddle.
Correct.
Seems to happen all the time. Steve Wixon wrote in, how is it... Oh, this is the point we were making earlier. How is it when Collingwood are losing, it's because the players are muppets and it's not Buckley's fault, but when they win, it's all down to the coach? Asking on behalf of approximately 50% of Collingwood fans. I think you're more asking on behalf of 90% of Collingwood fans.
Yeah, well, you brought this up earlier, mate.
Yeah, it's the thing that has bugged me all the time when they all say... why is this?
Oh, man, was their woeful first quarter, Buckley's fault on Saturday night?
Well,
I mean, I got to admit, it was a hell of a comeback and a hell of a victory.
It was against Hawthorn.
Yeah. And they looked, and they actually didn't look that great in the first quarter.
I mean,
when Isaac Smith's your best forward, you know.
It is interesting because I keep seeing Isaac Smith do a lot of the media at the moment, and I think,
they're getting him out and about,
but when he's the sort of becoming the face of Hawthorn, you go, oh, that makes sense why they're struggling.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't looked good for a long time, and then O'Meara doesn't seem to be back to rush back, so that's looking like not the greatest trade ever. No. Robbie Anderton wrote in, has anyone told Scott Pendlebury's son his dad has a basketball background?
Come on, young Jacks. He'll be dribbling already.
That's the first thing he got told. Taylor Brasser wrote in, did you know Geelong have a new stand?
Apparently so. and according to everyone at Geelong, it is the greatest stand that's ever been built anywhere in the world.
It's amazing. The
Makes
joys of living in a marginal seat.
Yeah. Well, it's called the pork barrel stand, isn't it?
Well, I mean, how they spend more money on that stadium than most seats get spent on schools and
I'm glad
hospitals.
you say that.
And there's 9 games a season.
It seems to be. Somebody said this to me the other day, and I thought, yeah, you're right. It seems to be every 2 years they unveil a new bit of the stand.
They're surrounded by there's a heap of marginal seats, both the state and federal level. Like you even a bit further out, you go Corangamite, and like all those seats around there are all marginal seats. So they just the Cats can't get Brian Cook down at the Cats, the CEO. He can't get out of bed without a government person offering him millions of dollars.
Oh, well, they must have rebuilt the joint about 8 times by now.
And they play 9 home games.
The only thing they haven't done is a roof. I'll tell you what, if the polls are going bad in the state level this time next year, expect a roof at Skilled Stadium.
They want an A-League side to kind of make it make sense.
Right.
To have this amazing...
Maybe Melbourne Rebels could play.
And they want a BBL side too.
Right.
So that's what they want to kind of make
it worthwhile.
Incredibly expensive piece of infrastructure. I like how the way to win over the Geelong public, and this makes sense to me. I'm not criticising the Geelong public. This makes a lot of sense to me. They would prefer the money to go towards a stand than the hospital or a school.
Oh, no question.
That's how you win them over. They just make the Cats good.
And the irony there is that 90% of people who live in Geelong can't get a ticket to the game anyway. They can admire the stand from the outside.
It looks great from the outside. Our final question, Michael Barbaro. With the football world losing its collective mind over the opening of a grandstand, what is the likely reaction next year when a whole brand new stadium opens in Perth? It's going to be ballistic.
Will we notice?
Because remember Adelaide Oval's opening?
Yeah, that's true.
That was a year of being told how it was the greatest thing that had ever happened in time and how loud it was. And remember they would cross down to the boundary and they'd go, just crossing down Lingy. Lingy has it. It's really loud.
I can't hear a thing. Yeah.
All right, we'll cross back down here in 2 minutes to find out if it's still loud.
Yeah, what about you, Richo? Oh, I'm with I can't hear a thing. I'm with Lingy. So what will the Perth one be like? They'll have a big party over there. Being Perth, there'll be, I don't know, village people at the Burswood or something. Boney M.
It's going to be huge with all the modern modern music.
They've just hit Perth for their first ever tours.
No, it should be good. I think it looks like a good stadium.
Good afternoon to everyone in Perth.
That's another $1 billion in money going in, and then they wonder how WA government's broke. Oh, we need more GST. I just saw you bought $1 million. They are like the guy who's got, 2 hotted up cars and and doesn't have a job and goes, oh, I'm broke.
It's the cost of living's killing
me. Hang on, you got 2 hotted up cars and
you got a Subaru WRX. You got some old hot rod thing.
You got the biggest plasma TV I've ever seen in my life. Cost of living.
That's killing me.
We just lost all our listeners
WA.
there. Lost up. No, they're fine with us, WA.
We'll get them back.
It's the Adelaide people that don't like you.
Yeah.
And we will later on be going over to WA and Adelaide.
Yeah, I'll be going incognito.
We are working on the tour
Tour dates.
Behind the scenes. It's looking like we're going to be announcing the tour soon, and it's going to be around that bye week in between the finals. Wildcard week.
Yeah, well, what we call the tour, the Wildcard Tour.
That's right. Our attempt to make the finals.
Yeah, 9th versus 13th.
So we will have some announcements about that soon.
And we've got some big name guests coming on this podcast shortly too.
You've got a cracker coming up.
I've got a beauty. This one is coming up.
You can't announce it yet, but that is a cracker. So
we can't announce it because we haven't asked him yet.
So thanks everyone for sending questions. We had a heap of questions today, and we could have done another about 30 more, mainly on Richmond and Melbourne, but and the Geelong stand. But we've run out of time, I'm afraid. And it's weird to run out of time on a podcast that has no set time. But
that's right. We have run out of time completely.
we have run out of time because the pub's just opened.
That's the one up on the road. Opens late morning on a Monday.
Now, we are doing Thursday.
We are.
We will be back on Thursday.
We'll hit plenty more questions on Thursday. If you've got them, send them through.
And if you can, go on iTunes and rate us. That makes us feel like we're really achieving in life. We'll see you next week.